6:21 in the AM. It is April 2nd, so it would be 4/2. Sorry about that. I had a customer that just came through, so I just figured I'd start all over again. And good morning. It is Wednesday. I'm Beth, and this is my box. Woot woot. I'm at work. Today is technically my work Monday, even though it's really Wednesday. But that's okay. I didn't go to the march on this past Saturday because I thought I had a dentist appointment on Monday, and I didn't want to go in to the dentist appointment all hoarse and not being able to use my mouth for more than just, breathing and chewing. And because the last time I went to the dentist, I got 4 fillings done on this side. Apparently, I need 4 fillings done on this side, which is impressive because that's the side I don't have as many teeth with. It's tragic, but it's true. Yeah, I know at least 1, if not 2 teeth were cracked when I was sucker punched years ago. So it cracked the teeth. It may have been a hairline fracture at first, but then over time and eating and blah, 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 it ended up cracking the tooth to the point where it was unsalvageable. So there was at least 1, if not 2 teeth that got damaged by somebody who was a little mad at me when I knocked on their door. Well, life happens. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't go to the rally because of the dentist appointment, but just like the last time with the dentist appointment, I arrived a week too early. They sent notifications, but I didn't pay attention to the date. I thought they were sending me a notification to say your appointment's to, on Monday of this week when it's actually next week. So they were ahead of the game in sending their notifications. That's all good. So I'll just go to the dentist appointment next week. But I am going to the march on April 5th. I took off on Saturday, so it's kind of like I'm not taking off any time of my weekend, my version of a weekend. So I'm going this Saturday. The things I did do on my days off because I didn't go to the march, I bought this really cool small bin. Maybe it's a 20-galloner, but it's very small and it's kind of rectangle shape. The cool thing about it is that it has, instead of having a flat top like this, it has like a leany top like this. So this is flat and this part has a little down thing. And that part of the lid actually opens up so that I can use it for composting. To start small. Yes, I still have a stack of stuff that I'm going to be using for composting big stuff, but the small little bin is going to focus at this moment on things that are kitchen wastes, like coffee grounds. Joey eats a lot of eggs. Oh my God, he eats a lot of eggs. So there's eggshells in there. There's some of his leafy stuff that's gone bad, so he can't necessarily eat it himself. Any kind of kitchen scraps like that are going to go in the small bin so they can start doing their process, but then it's not as in the open for the buggies to do the buggy thing. I did pick up some leaves and some dirt that was in the area just because I know there's going to be microbes on those items. So I just threw them in the bin too so that the microbes could start doing what they do. I did put 1 piece of dog poo in there, which has its own set of microorganisms that need to break things down. So this is just the staging point so that when the big compost pile that I'm starting gets going and starts to break stuff down, eventually what I'll do is I'll remove half of it, half of the big compost pile, Then I'll put this organic kitchen waste stuff in the middle of it, then cover it back over with compost stuff that's not composted yet, and let it break down from there. The thing with composting, everybody would like it to be done early, as quick as possible. Well, it it's going to take time. Like everything takes time. Like growing a tomato plant. You can plant the tomato, which I did. It's my season, the start of my growing tomato season. Um, you can grow or put the tomato plant in the ground now, but that doesn't mean tomorrow I'm going to get a tomato off of the bush. You know what I mean? It's going to take time for it to grow. And even if this tomato plant that I planted already has a flower on it, which is awesome. But the flower's got to be pollinated, and then after the pollination, the seed has to take place in order for a tomato to come. It takes time. Probably by July, I'll have at least 1 or 2 tomatoes, which is awesome because I think of a tomato plant as kind of like the summertime Christmas tree. Comes with red balls and all, which is why I like the tomato plants. I use coconut oil as a moisturizer, which is awesome because, first of all, it's natural. But when I get it in the nose bridge, it makes my glasses very slippery, and I can't stand every time putting my head down and my glasses start going forward. So anyway, I bought that, and while I was there at the store to buy the tomato plant, and the little compost bin, I also bought it's a wood. It's not a gun. It's like a heating rod that you can do some cool little shit on wood engraver, I guess you could say, but it's basically a hot pen to mark on the wood. I bought that specifically so I could poke a hole in the bottom of some of my planters that didn't have holes. Excuse me, because I don't want them to flood out, because in doing my gardening stuff to prepare all of the things up, I already planted like the potatoes, like I said, and the sugar cane. The problem is I learned the difference between the dirt finally. You have garden soil and you have potting mix. Those are two completely different things. And when you get the garden soil, I was not impressed. Yeah, I'm sure they have little Miracle Grow little pellets in there that are slow release or whatever, which is all well and good. But most of what was in the garden soil wasn't even soil. It was like bark, pieces of wood. They're like this big. Well, it takes a long time for that kind of wood to disintegrate, or decompose. That's the correct word. So as far as soil itself, there was really not a whole lot of soil in there, which, okay, fine. We'll use it for now, but I'm going to be making my own soil because I'm not liking it. Because that's not really soil. It's kind of a mulch with a tidbit of soil. So anyway, I had planted some of my pots with the garden soil, and that's when I realized I really didn't like that soil. But it was too late because I had already started planting things. So this time, because of not going to the dentist, I got some potting soil instead of garden soil. So it's potting mix, pardon me, and some peat moss. So I could repot what I've already planted, plus plant my new tomato plant that I had just bought. So that is what I focused on, was mixing up the dirt, the garden soil dirt, in with some potting soil and some peat moss, and some of my worm castings that I had already had. So I mixed it all together, and then I repotted and put holes in the bottom of the pots. So the potatoes I put in looked like they had done no kind of growing whatsoever. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I went ahead and put them back in the dirt, but I also used some of the potatoes that Joey had in the laundry room, which had started to sprout. So screw it. I'll just use those because I know they're sprouting. So I put those in. I looked at the sugar cane that I had planted, and right where the joint is, where it's supposed to do its reseeding and rerooting, as it were, it did. Some of it had some like baby fine hairs, but they were there. So I repotted those again. So I'm very pleased with those being in there. The sweet potato I killed. It looked like it was doing okay, but then come to find out I drowned the sweet potato, so now it's like, ooh. Uh, so I bought a new sweet potato and put that in. I will say my marshmallow plants, the seeds, it was very particular because according to the instructions, you're supposed to get a small amount of wet dirt and put the seeds in the small amount of wet dirt and put it in the refrigerator. Well, I didn't want to put the wet dirt in the refrigerator, so I just wet a napkin because you can do it that way too. It's just you have to get it, the roots sometimes when you do this will go into the napkin itself. And so you have to be very careful to try and get that out. Anyway, when I did it, it said to leave it in there for almost a month, basically. Which is fine because I'm real good at forgetting things. The problem was in my thought process was that I wasn't paying attention enough to water the napkin inside the baggie. So by the time the month mark came, I finally looked at the little baggie and I was like, oh, damn, I think I fucked it up because it looked like mold was starting on the seed. It was like maybe I put too much water in or something, and now they've molded over and now it's no good anymore. So I was like, well, the heck with it. I'll just go ahead and plant it and see if one or two of the seeds comes up. Well, I got a baggie. Well, I used the same baggie that it was in. So I took the baggie and I put wet dirt at the bottom of the baggie, and then I put the seeds that were still kind of connected to the paper towel, and I put that on top of the dirt, closed the Ziploc bag most of the way with just a little air hole left on it, and put it in a spot that would get some sun, but for the most part it was going to be shaded. And I was surprised, and I saw little sprouty heads come up. I was like, woohoo, it did sprout, it did sprout. So yesterday, after making up all the big quantities of dirt for the potatoes and sugarcane and tomato plant, I did a small batch of it and leaned heavier on the peat moss and potting soil because it's looser and easier for a baby root to get through than the garden soil would be. So I mixed that up and I saved a lot of the seeds, the little sprouts that came up. There may have been like 25 or 30 seeds because they're small. I mean, like small, peppercorn size, smaller. Take a peppercorn and divide it in quarters, and a quarter is basically the size of these seeds, and even then that's too big. But anyhow, so I saved the seedlings, and I would say I got a good 20 out of it all, you know what I mean? And I planted those into the pots, and now I got to see if they survive long enough in order to be potted. I put a piece of plastic over it. I think I put it in just a plastic bag so that it would get the humidity factor going. So the water would go up and down and recirculate and blah, blah, blah. So we'll see how that goes. Worms! Oh my god! I finally found some worms. I got them at of all places, PetSmart. It might be a Petco, but basically it's a PetSmart, Petco kind of company. And by their fish that they sell, they do have a small little refrigerator of worms. So I got 48 red wigglers because they come in packs of 24. And then I got one container of bloodworms, but they only had 12 in it. So I've still got the containers. I can show them to you later. So that adds up to 60 worms, in addition to maybe my 4 or 5 worms that were in there. So I just put them in the bag and made sure there was moisture in there. And they had enough food. So I just put them all in there. We'll give them a while to do what they got to do. I'll just keep checking on it, make sure the moisture level is okay. Yeah, so we got that done by my hands. I don't know if you can see it, but like this here and that there, and then these here and that one there. Yeah, did some yard work. The area in which I want to put the compost is poorly maintained and it had some overgrowth. I think it's a particular Chinese or, yeah, Chinese or Japanese, some kind of oriental thing that it may actually be kudzu. I don't know, but all I know is that shit's invasive as hell. And yeah, you think it's okay for a little bit, but then you realize it kills whatever tree it starts to wrap around because it chokes it, cuts it because it's so tight, and as it grows, it just constrains it even tighter. So I cut the hell out of some of that, and some poison oak or ivy, whichever the case it is. I knew it was down there, but I was like, all right, let me just start cutting that stuff down now. But it's good because this will start the compost pile that I need in order to have a compost bin. Anyway, and while all that's going on, I also looked up biochar. And how to make it, because biochar apparently is very good for the gardens. Not when you first make it, though. You have to. Um, the word I'm thinking is not the word it is. I'm thinking indoctrinate it, but you don't indoctrinate wood. You have to basically season it up, because when you make biochar, when it's just charcoal at first, all it is like, think of it this way, it's like a miniature apartment building, okay? And that apartment building has like 300,000 rooms. Not for us, of course, but for those little things we don't see called micro organisms that are actually in charge of breaking down food good enough for even worms to eat and plants. That's the thing with microorganisms. Their poo is what is small enough for plants to eat. So you need to have microorganisms in order for the plants to eat. These little charcoal pieces of wood with their 300,000 rooms of, so to say, inside of it is for the microorganisms to live in. That's what that's for. So, if you just take that charcoal and plant it in your garden, it's going to be horrible. It's not a good idea because it's empty. There's nothing in it other than the micro organisms that decide to go in and live there. Well, what they're going to do is, if you put the charcoal in your garden and it hasn't been charged, let's use that word, charged as it were, then the microorganisms are going to take all the nutrients from the surrounding area and bring it back to their apartment, which means that the plants and stuff aren't going to have the nutrients they need because now it's all being taken into the charcoal. So what you need to do before you put the charcoal into your garden is to charge it. And you can charge it by taking some of your compost and some pee and some water, mixing it in with the charcoal and letting it absorb up this gunk, what we consider gunk, the compost and some water and some pee. Mix it all in together and let it sit for a couple of days so that everything can be absorbed into the charcoal. And then once it's charged, you just, excuse me, you just take take the water off of the charcoal and most of the other stuff. You know, if it's gross, you don't want to have it together. But anyway, that's what you plant. You plant it after it's been charged. So you don't want to do it ahead of time. You need to have it charged, and it's going to take a couple of days for it to charge up proper. Just like with my compost pile, people want to do it in 30 days. You can't do that because a microorganism cannot eat the Eiffel Tower in 30 days. It takes time. So a good compost pile has been going, or doesn't really fully compost something, because it can take 5 years. So this is a long-term setup and arrangement. So in the beginning, this year I may not get any compost whatsoever. Maybe at the very, very bottom, I can use some of that for charging charcoal, so to say. But I am not delusional in thinking that I'm going to have compost in 30 days, because that's bullshit. You know what I mean? Unless you're like putting all of your stuff into a blender and blending it down so that it's easier to be consumed by either the worms or the microbes. I'm just saying, don't be stupid about it. Give it time to do what it does. Nature takes its time. And once you realize it's a beautiful thing, because it does take long, then you can relax a little bit. So yes, I'm setting this up for a long-term goal. Anyway, I also took the measurements around the house, or around my hut, so I know the distance between this, that, and the other. And between the hut and the garage, I think I finally decided I'd like to put the rain catcher barrels in that middle area, because we don't do anything with it. It's kind of a pain to mow, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, this is just a check-in for today, talking garden stuff and worms. I got some worms. Yeah, so I'll be there on April 5th, whether it's in Virginia or Washington, D.C. I haven't decided as of yet, but I will do the 5th. Anyway, for right now, y'all take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. Remember, take care of yourselves, because that's all we got. Okay? Peace out, people. Peace.